Hello and welcome to the Not My Job Pod. I am your host, Emily Gant, and today I could not be more excited. We are joined by the wonderful Judy LaDivina. She is a lip sync extraordinaire in 47 languages, originally from Tel Aviv, moved to Berlin in 2015, founded Dragaholic, launching over 100 plus new drag artists. I saw you in the lead role, one of the lead roles in Ugly Duckling at the Deutsches Theater, which was incredible. I know you've also performed at the Staatsoper Stuttgart as well and co-hosted quite famously Together with Syrian dancer The Darvish, an Arabic-Jewish coexistence show. So I could not be more excited to talk to you today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. And what an intro. I never took the time to tell it to myself like that. So thank you.
That's always kind of how it goes, though, right? It's like all of a sudden all these accomplishments kind of come together, and then you realize, oh, I've done a lot.
Yeah, I did. She was working a bit.
She's been busy. So we'll get started with kind of the origin story. So when you arrived in Berlin, was Judy already fully fledged, or was Judy born in Berlin?
She was born here. When I arrived here, she was not even a concept. I always had passion for stage and I did a lot of stage related work in my life, but never so frontal and never in drag. So Judy became in Berlin. I guess Berlin facilitated that freedom to explore and to find. So only a year after I moved to Berlin, it's when Judy first came to life.
And was that because you just met certain people who said, you should try this, or how did it kind of
I mean,
come to
pretty
be?
much like that. So my arrival was very shocking in many ways. I mean, I've chosen it, I did it, but I did it more from, I knew I have to go away from where I was. I had massive difficulty to pay taxes to the government that unfortunately is still running my birth country, and I was extremely overwhelmed. So I decided I need a perspective. I studied political science in uni, and I came to Germany with an ambition to do my PhD. But then I ended up just crying in my Airbnb apartment, asking myself, why did I do that? And I think it was the fourth night in Berlin that I was able to go out of this Airbnb flat. And the first person I've met was a drag queen who then became my drag mama. And that was, yeah, Mazzy Mazeltov. Shlomi Moto Wagner was also an extraordinary opera singer. And I was kind of like, going with her to all kinds of gigs, helping in choreography, dancing on stage. And it was always there like, you should do it. You should do it. And I was like, actually, I should. And the rest is her story.
That's incredible. And also the most Berlin story ever that, you just walk
Right?
out of your apartment kind of sad and then your whole life is completely transformed.
By a drag queen.
Drag queen specifically. Is there anything though that I guess since you started drag in Berlin, was there anything that the city kind of gave you that you didn't expect, or did you know anything about drag beforehand, or was it just everything you learned was Berlin centric?
I think Berlin gave me the permission and allowance to be. And then it also really introduced me to this queer way of living because I had to, like, I always say that I grew up in a very conservative family in a very conservative city. So way before I knew what I am, I knew what I'm not. I had no words to really describe how I feel or where I sense belonging. And there was this transition where like, oh my God, I'm gay. And it took me a long while to realize, okay, that's also not really a full on fit to how I feel and express myself. And then Berlin really introduced me to this queer community, and it gave me a lot of power and a lot of strength to accept also my gayness, but also my queerness and my masculine and feminine and all of the above, because I do feel that we all have it. It's just a matter of access and permission to explore. And Berlin really gave me that because it's a rare example of how people from all over the world can live in the same building or share a bench outside of the same Späti and have a beautiful conversation, regardless to disagreements, background, politics, wars, you name it. Somehow we choose to make a home and it works. So I think it's really precious and worth protecting.
I agree. And for those who are listening, how would you kind of explain if somebody isn't as aware of the queer community in general, what kind of is the difference between coming out, just being gay versus now identifying as queer? How would you kind of
I,
describe the difference?
I think the beauty of it is mostly like the beauty of being queer is that you're not obliged for a definition. And in a world where we're constantly chased by identity politics and each of one of those identities are fully figured and already explained, queer allows you this umbrella of exploring. It means I do not see myself fully fit in anyone in any other, maybe some parts of whichever definitions, but I believe that those definitions are more of a limit to us rather than a powerful tool to express or to explain ourselves who we are. So in queer, I find the freedom and the space to explore and to move around. So for me, queer is an invitation, and I would explain any person who is not able to fully comprehend it. First, I would invite them not to resent it rather than to have a look. We're quite gorgeous. And second, really allow yourself this fluidity in life in general, because we all go through phases in life of all kinds of things. And sometimes, even career wise, I thought I want to do PhD in political science and influence the world in the traditional politics way. But doing what I do, being visibly who I am, is a much more powerful political statement that actually reaches people rather than work in a system that then abuses the same people, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. And I guess I'm interested as well because I do think there are some people who in Berlin kind of focus less on, I think everything's political. So I'm coming from that angle. But how do you kind of talk to people who maybe within the queer community are like, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to have a good time, for example.
First, I don't resent having a good time as a form of political activism. My dear, precious grandma taught me such a valuable lesson to life that I often refer in my shows. My grandma was a mother of 10 and a grandmother of over than 50, just so we get somewhat of perspective. And she was also in a very abusive relationship, which at the time looked and was very normal within the women's right and what she as a wife and a mother can or cannot do. Um, and I used to really resent it as a child. And one time I confronted her with that, and she looked at me with a big smile and said, "My joy is my riot." And therefore, I am totally up for spreading joy and love as a form of political activism. The people that don't have it in their capacity to talk about politics, that's fair, but I would not accept people that don't have it in their capacity to participate and then only complain. We cannot just be against stuff. We have to come up with a plan. And I genuinely believe in our values and in our power as a community, not fighting for our community per se. I genuinely think that most of the queer values of the lefties, as they like to tag us, is universal values. We're not up to take care of us. We're up to really try to make sense of this thing called human existence while we all here together. So I would invite, I would not push, because a lot of times when you face resentment or any kind of, I don't want to do that, it just means that maybe there is a bigger trauma there or a bigger step to take. And I will invite and respect whatever answer I will get. I cannot force people to think like I am. And I would actually encourage people who think differently to talk with me. But unfortunately, the conversation is no longer a cool thing to do.
I think we need to bring back conversation for sure.
Right? I do agree.
I want to know a little bit more about, I guess, how on the day to day politics kind of influences what you do. Because inherently, like for example, I know you're going to. I guess tell me a little bit about the show that you're performing at tonight, the Tell Mama show.
Tell
How
Mama.
yeah,
My living
how did
room
that come to be?
fantasy. I started Tell Mama 8 years ago. It's a show happening in a gorgeous bar in Revalenstraße called Zum Schmutzigen Hobby. It has been my home for the past 8 years. It's a very intimate show, and it's a really an invitation for the biggest delusions that I have and the most honest possible conversation I can have with my audience. So the main format of the show is that the audience get to interview me anonymously. You can write any question, whether it's personal, whether you want my advice, and I always push them to ask for my advice because I've been through stuff and been to places, and it's a beautiful, precious thing. And I would say, like, if you will look at the political climate, doing it for 8 years. 8 years ago, it was much cooler to go to a drag show. 8 years ago, it was much more cooler to walk to the show. Now I think we feel a bit less safe, a bit less seen, and a bit less celebrated unless it's Pride months because there is a legitimacy to target us. And that legitimacy starts in the news, in social media, in the White House, and in church. And also, to be fair, amongst ourselves. Because we also kind of sometimes failing to unite and work together. So all of this comes together, and sometimes you will get shows which are more challenging. Sometimes you will get shows that are a bit less full. But I think when you have no other choice, then you have a choice, and you keep on going. And that's my decision. I want to keep on going. I want to keep on being a voice of light, of possibility, of option. My door is welcome. My arms are open. If you want, this is your place, and if you don't want, adios. Like you don't have to be here.
I have to say, at the last show that I went to, it was right before I was with a bunch of colleagues and we all hated the workplace that we were in. So we requested your advice on, I'm sure you don't remember this because you do so many shows, but we requested your advice on how to handle it. And I believe you told us all to quit while life was short and we still had joy. And we all did.
Well,
I think.
congratulations. Like that's what I'm talking about, you know. Life is indeed very short. And a lot of time we waste our time trying to just to stay rolling and doing something that we don't like. And eventually true happiness is not about having less of a hard job or just, you know, not having it's about making your passion something that also is provides you with food and rent, for example. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad for you. Well done.
Thank you. It was good advice. But I'd like to jump back into what you said about how the queer community kind of divides within itself, unfortunately. And I'm curious if you think that differs. I'm coming from this from I used to manage a comedy club. And even though some of these comedians would be friends with each other, they were constantly at each other's throats. It was almost like a competition thing and sort of a hierarchy. So I'm wondering if you mean it in the context of like people kind of seeing like there's only so much space for this number of performers, or is it something deeper?
This I haven't experienced at all in Berlin. I feel that in specifically the drag community in Berlin, and I assume in other places, unlike the drag that is represented on TV, where you make a good reality show about making the queens fight with each other, here I felt the scene is at most extremely supportive and extremely loving and inviting and actually having the desire to grow in space for more performers. In drag, the beautiful thing is that you're never on someone's niche. You can only do you. So the more, the better. And if we can cooperate and collage and create, even better, because we have much more to offer. I talk about the inability of our community in many ways to, you know, when it comes to what's matter. I'm a very pragmatic person. Like, how do we win election? How do we make our team bigger? How are we able to push forward towards what we want? And I feel that unlike the past, we kind of lost the ability to have indeed a conversation. It's more about set of agreements or disagreements. And it's either you agree with me or you're against me, which in fact is not always the truth. I can disagree with you, or you can disagree with me. And I'm still much on your side, and I would love to make things work. And the more this list goes on and the more nuances are expected to be an ultimate truth, I consider it as cult behavior rather than a community behavior, which you can see and practiced very well on the other side. When there is no much space for conversation, when it's very simple ideas that it's either good or bad, and I find it almost ironic that we are almost adopting some of those behavior formats. And yeah, we here to spread love and joy, and this is something that I think we must never forget. We should never lose our hope. Because as we do it, we also lose hope and we become very pessimistic and very like, and that's never going to work. And if you lose hope, then what you're fighting for?
Yeah, I think our modern society makes it quite easy to get bogged down in just everything bad that's happening. And I often I guess I think about it from like, I have like my small circle where everything is happy and wonderful and there's just so much good happening. And then it's like you zoom out and you see just like so much yeah, scary headlines. And sometimes I guess I'm trying to figure out how can I bring kind of the good that's in my small circle out to the wider circle. And that's always a challenge.
I mean, I think also the a challenge is to make sure not just to bring your joy into the bigger circle, how not to make this horrifying thing take away constantly from your joy. Because when we lose joy, then we're losing this fire that we're fighting for. And this
Mhm.
is something I refuse to do. As my grandma told me, joy is my riot. Like, I cannot be defeated like that. I want to continue. I trust the message and I believe that there is an option. Otherwise, this Delulu is not really functioning.
Well, I love the Delulu, and
Yes.
I'm interested how the Delulu kind of brings into, yeah, everything you do with communities. So I know that, like for example, you've launched over 100 performers with Dragaholic. So it was kind of like, how did you get into that, or how did you kind of decide? Okay, there's so
So
much going on.
when I started drag, there was very few drag shows in Berlin, specifically English speaking drag shows. There were, of course, Pansy and the House of Presents, and there was the Desperate Housewives of Neukölln. They did an amazing job, but there were quite few, but not a lot. At the time I worked with Silver Future, I lived nearby Maybach, which is very close to the bar. And we came up with this concept that would be somewhat of an encouragement to not build an open stage in a form of competition, which can bring a lot of stress, rather than just show up and show off. I casted the first show from few people I knew, and then the show casted itself every single time. We play a little game, a lip sync game with the audience, and suddenly you see people in the crowd lip sync like they mean it. And all they needed is that one bitch, sorry for saying, that would be like, hello, wake up, you need to be in drag, and here is your stage, and you're booked for the next week or next month. And ever since the show grew and grew and grew, and by now it's more than 200 performers that started their drag journey on Dragaholic stage, which is beautiful. And I'm very happy to see most of them having amazing careers out there. And it's not a per se a collective, or it's just a safe space that you can come visit, get a hug, you become a family member immediately, and you go and you do your thing.
Has there ever been a time where a new performer has taught you something that you didn't expect or influenced how you show up?
Many times, many times. They always challenge the way I think, the way I see. Sometimes they are way above or aside to what I'm usual. Sometimes I have to step up and be like, hey, I just want to say that, like, it's really depend, but mostly I would say I'm constantly inspired by seeing this glow up moment. Because in drag, there is a big amount of, like, we always present as very secure and very confident, but it comes with a massive baggage of like being scared and being overwhelmed by the situation and feeling extremely exposed, even though you completely covered. So to see that moment of boom from the backstage, you got this talk to this burst of joy and an audience cheering is always, it's a constant reminder of why I do this as much as I do it for so long. Because it's a hard job to survive 10 years in. Like it's really rewarding.
How did you get to I mean, well, actually, how many languages are you up to now? I said 47, but that was what
Oh yeah, well, it's 52 now. It's 52 languages now
52.
that I lip sync in, and this is also just because I'm a big lip sync nerd. I love the art form of lip sync. For me, it's like a pre-written monologue that has been recorded. And the ability to communicate or to give this drag experience in someone's native tongue is beyond bonding and beyond fun for me to do. So it started with like 10 languages because I'm a Eurovision junkie. So I had those songs in my system. And then it just grew and grew because people asked or challenged me. And yeah,
Was there ever a time where an audience member was like, "I can't believe you just did that in Mandarin," or like, what was the strangest?
Many times where audience members are quite surprised that suddenly there is a song coming from their culture in their language. And that's the joy of it. Like, that's what gives me the kick. Usually, when I do this segment of the show, I don't come with a pre decided lineup for the trip. So we do 5 destinations and the audience get to choose. So if somebody is suddenly from Mexico and they're getting like a Mexican hit, it's the least expected thing to experience in a drag show in Berlin while you're in a vacation. And that creates a beautiful magic and gives me a lot of joy because, yeah, I love the drama in whichever language it comes.
I think it was, speaking of just languages and what they come in, it was my first time at the Deutsches Theater when I saw Ugly Ducklings. And I was just shocked that there were subtitles on a play. That was like
Mhm.
so novel to me. But it really kind of reinforced exactly what you just said that, like, yeah, when something's, and it's so dumb to say, I guess, because, you know, it's English versus German and everything's in English in Germany. But just the fact that I was like, oh, I'm not
Depends
going to
where in
miss
Germany.
almost. But I'd like to know a little bit more about that production as well. Like how did that even come about? Because kind of the introduction into like proper theater is something
Yeah.
relatively new for you. Or I know you have kind of a background in
When I
choreography.
started drag, it was very clear to me that Judy needs to be a queen of the theater. Like, I want to work in theater. I want to play roles as a drag queen and also just theater roles. I'm a theater nerd. I have a big passion for anything that is happening live, much more so than on camera. And it was very clear to me that somehow, someday, it will happen. And indeed, Bastian Kraft, the incredible director of Ugly Duckling, showed up to one of my shows at Silver Future. And then he came to another show at Zum Schmutzigen Hobby. And then I got an inbox to my Instagram if I want to participate in theater production that is basically based on fairy tales from Hans Christian Andersen and incorporated with our own personal stories. And that was a dream coming true. I invited it, I envisioned it. And the moment it happened, my react was like, yes, where have you been? I have been waiting for you. And I cannot take that for granted. The fact that I was invited into a mainstream state theater in Germany as a Jewish Arabic person, immigrant. The subtitles things is something that is very common now in German theater because they want to be more inclusive and more accessible. Eventually, language is access. It's a tool of communication. And we started this journey in 2019. The show is still running, not as often, but still running. And it really opened the door for me for many beautiful theater productions. I then worked with Bastian again in Stuttgart and now in Thalia Theater in Hamburg. We're doing Die kleine Meerjungfrau, which is almost Ugly Duckling, just on a bigger scale with some different stories and a different cast. I am lucky to be in both casts. And I'm also working with Rambazamba Theater here in Berlin. And I'm like the role of my life, most likely, is to play Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Drag Show, which is still on the run. So just for PR, check my link tree on my Instagram. And please, all of you, come. We need you. Support queer art.
Do you think that your relationship with the character I mean, obviously the play itself weaves in your own story, but I guess even when you're kind of planning out what is your story from 2019, like, do you still resonate with how you kind of put yourself together and
Pretty
kind
much.
of explain yourself?
I think when you look at those fairy tales we're highly inspired by, which is The Ugly Duckling and The Little Mermaid, eventually it's a conversation of belonging and a sense of not belonging. And those stories are forever relevant in one's experience, and they're also it's a collective experience. We've all been there in one way or another, in whichever connotation. Mostly in those productions, I am focused on my drag becoming and my coming out. It's a story that was a bit hard for me to share to begin with because the reaction of my mom when I came out to her was extremely brutal, very aggressive, and very not welcoming. Yet many years later, we became besties and we were able to find the connection again to each other. And in many ways, it's very easy. It was very easy for me at the time to say, yeah, she's conservative, she's religion, she doesn't accept me. But I also could recognize how big the journey I've been through towards my personal happiness has a massive impact on the fact that she is able to accept me. Because a lot of times it's not just being conservative or being old fashioned. A lot of times it's concerns that based on the capacity you have and the tools you've been giving and how you were raised. So in many ways, she was very concerned for me. And I can not understand it, or I can understand it. I'm very happy that I was able to open the door and invite her back to my life and show her the real me. Because my reaction to her freaking out is to really censor myself in many ways.
Mhm.
And I find it a very important story to tell, especially as in the audience, I know there are many queer parents, there are many queer kids, and this conversation is not something that they teach us how to do. What we see is either everything is love and glory, or everything is bad and they never see each other again. And the truth, real life, is somewhere in the middle. And if you're willing and you have a partner, then you should take that way.
I think that's such a well put statement. That also in general, it was your choice to understand her and her perspectives, whether or not you agree with it or you wish it were a different way. Or I guess it's just a really powerful message on kind of what we talked about also earlier about how just because you don't agree doesn't mean that there isn't necessarily a path forward or a future in talking
I
to
kind of
somebody.
fear of the day everybody will agree with me, you know? Like, there is this utopian idea now that if everybody agrees with me, then that means I'm right. It's almost like our brain is functioning on an algorithm behavior. It feeds us with reinforcements, and then it's like, okay, then that's the right way. And now I am not able to get anything that challenges how I perceive whichever reality. And that is scary. No matter from which side you want to convince me, if you claim that you have the ultimate truth, I become suspicious.
I'm convinced we're all living in a simulation at a high level, so I don't know what's true or up or down. I think it's all made up.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is also. We can resent it as much as we want, but the world is not waiting for us to give approval, you know?
Mhm.
Like, it's never a good time for a world pandemic. It is what
No,
it is. And that taught us so much and brought us in so much perspective. And we are still recovering from that in many ways. And there is never a good time for world war. And there is never a good time for a crazy president with access to nuclear weapon.
I would agree.
But there's always a good time for a drag show.
That's a perfect outlook on life, I think. Uh,
What else can we do?
that's true. I'd like to dive deeper as well into a show that I have not had the chance to see. I was reading a bit more about the show you did after October 7th, where you
Mhm.
changed.
We
You can
changed Yala
probably.
Hafla into Together.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear just a little bit more about that. Just when I was doing my background research, I was like, wow, this is fascinating because it said that the show had drawn death threats alongside standing ovations,
Yeah,
and I'm
still
curious
is. Even though it's
what
no
have.
longer on the running, but still is.
Mhm.
I would say that for the first 7 years of the show, 6 years of the show, we had the most incredible joy, passion to really share this possibility and to give a space for being together, for being familiar with each other. Growing up as Jewish Arabic person, Israeli with Palestinian heritage, I always sensed like a lot of sides of my existence on a bigger scale don't talk to each other. They don't know each other. And when you don't know each other, it's very easy to villainize the other side and to make it look as if it's a given division. Inspired by many groups I've been involved as a child and many political activism I did way before I moved to Berlin. This show was not intentional. This show was a true expression of joy. We've met on a dance floor. We had so much fun and we started dancing to the same tunes. The lineup will be exclusively in Hebrew and Arabic, and it would give a lot of people so much joy. Obviously, from day one, there were people that are against it. Obviously, from day one, people that refuse to see the possibility, whether it's from their trauma or their ignorance or their, I don't know, but I cannot be focused on that.
Mhm.
I can only be focused on my voice. And for me, no one based on place of birth, nationality, religion is an enemy. It's something that my brain, my family, where I was raised, did not wired me like that. So the show was a joy and happiness until October 7th. basically gave a boost to how deep the conflict is and how far it is from our delusion or our hope or our commitment. We decided to change it from being a joyful place where we play happy tunes into being a space for conversation where we can talk with each other. And we got a lot of hate also for that it's not the time to be together. We ask respectfully not to carry any national flag out of our disbelief in nationality, period. But that also came across as if we're against this or that. Eventually, the show didn't stand because people just didn't show up to see it. And it created like all kinds of unnecessary dramas. My voice has been the same before this show premiered in 2017 until today. I
Hmm.
refuse to be the reflection or the ecosystem to any government or any organization that, based on religion, they think that they have the right to abuse or to kill or to torture any human being, whether it's Israeli or Palestinian. And I will continue to refuse that. And I will continue to believe that there is an option. I will continue to believe that more Israelis and Palestinians need to talk with each other from a mutual and create a mutual vision. And I believe that people that call me naive and stupid and unrealistic are really underestimating the fact that here I am, Jewish Arabic, functioning drag queen in Germany today. There
Hmm.
is I refuse to just accept the defeat because I don't think that we should forever live in an either or reality. But it's not the fact. It's historically wrong, it's morally wrong, and it's definitely wrong if we want to look into a future of safety and prosperity and respect for any human being that is living in the region, whether they're Muslim, Jewish, Christians, Palestinians, Jordanians, Lebanese, and yes, also Israelis. For a lot of people, the fact that I say yes, also Israelis at the end is enough to cancel me. And you know what? Go ahead.
No, I guess because of this identity politics of I've chosen this camp or I've chosen that camp in regards to literally any issue, I feel
Anything.
like it's kind of what you said earlier. If you've chosen one, then you're against the other.
We can literally agree on simple things such as all weapons are cursed. Every human life is valuable. I
Hmm.
will never celebrate or justify or be able to comprehend any attack on any innocent person, no matter where they are. When you start justifying one, you're enabling the other.
Hmm.
And that's the irony of it all.
Curious what you mean by, I guess, how do you see it as, I think what was eye-opening for me for context, like, U.S. education system, it's obviously very pro-Israel. U.S. media, German media is very pro-Israel, pro-Israeli government. And so kind of unpacking that and thinking, okay, I'm not justifying the actions of what happened on October 7th, but I can look at the history and I can see why it happened and the events that led up to it. So I'm curious if you can elaborate a bit more on what you mean by like justification. Do you mean that there are people kind of justifying the actual violence that
Yeah,
occurred?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that it's as simple as that.
Hmm.
And no matter from which side you'll talk with, you can talk with pro Israeli people that would tell you, no, it's just if Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to exist. No country has the right to exist. Humans have the right to exist. Sorry to break those news to you. And in the same way and in the same tone, endless of happy joy messages on October 7th telling that whatever happened should happen on a bigger scale, and it's great. Then I heard that it's not, it didn't even happen. It's AI. And then if it happened, then it's amazing that it happens because finally there is a violent resistance. Again, when you're justifying one, you're enabling the other. Whether you're saying this one has the right to defend itself and therefore they can use power, or you say this, that, when we accept it as a language, the language will be used. And
Hmm.
I'm not on that loop. I don't
Yeah.
think any weapon should be sent to any government, and people should be forced to figure it out. Have a group of Jewish and Arabic mothers that lost their kids for this stupidity and let them define the future, not a white orange man.
And I think it makes me think as well of, and I'm probably botching the history, and now I'm gonna have to go look it up after this, but it was like after the genocide in Rwanda, it was because it was a bunch of women who were left. And so the first time it was like women were taking power in office, and they had the Hutus and the Tutsis, and it was all these women, new women in power who were like, we don't care what happened in the past. You're going to sit down and drop all of this, and now we're going to move forward. And so I
That
do
for
think.
me, and generally speaking, over anything, I would prefer the conversation to be focused on forward rather than the past. From
Mhm,
whether it did da. There is facts. People existing on whichever piece of land it is, they are there. Whether you're
mhm,
able to see it or not able to see it, whether you agree with it or not agreeing with it, whether you think this land was promised to you 3,000 years ago or it was taken away from you 100 years ago. This is the situation. This is how it happens. Personally, my family, I am 12 generations in the same city I was born.
mhm.
Not your typical white colonizer Jew. People lived. They were great. If anybody fucked it up, it's the Europeans and the Brits. So, like, have your reference, know your history, yes, but also let's look forward. What
Mhm,
can we do? What can be done? How we can build a future together? I said it during this show. I say it also now. We are much more similar than what they try to make us believe we are. We're
mhm.
much more alike than different. And the more we're legitimizing this separation, the farther this vision is able to exist.
I totally agree with you. From my personal place, I find that when I express this view, then identity does get pulled into question. Well, it's easy for you to say just move forward when you weren't victimized by the past. And I do in some ways think that's a valid argument. So I guess what's your opinion on kind of people using identity to push forward how they feel about something? Is that something that should
It's
weigh
valid.
in your opinion?
It's valid. I
Yeah.
accept it. I also accept a lot of people that chose me as a target to express their anger and their rage, and I understand it. I am the closest proximity to their range. I genuinely believe that most of this is from good intentions and from genuine concern. It's not. It doesn't take a scientist.
Mhm.
It's human life. You either care for it or not. I just refuse to, I accept it, but I refuse to play in the game. I would never minimize somebody to the place they were born or their pronouns or we are much more than that. Like our community, we are now trying to educate the world what it means that our existence is on the non-binary spectrum. So how can we decide that everything else but our own ass is completely binary, good or bad, you're with me or against me? That's not how it works. And even when you have a conversation, ask yourself, why do you have it? Are you trying to just be reassured or you genuinely want to reach somewhat of progress?
Right.
This utopia, let go. It's not going to happen. Not everybody that goes to church on a Sunday is suddenly going to queue up to Berghain. And let's be real, we don't want them to.
No.
So I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm just trying to genuinely exercise what it means to be free. And what it means to be free is not okay just when it comes to me.
Mhm.
If somebody is disagreeing with me, they have the exact same rights as I. It is what it is. And if I will enable the possibility of taking their rights when they'll be in power, they will not hesitate to take mine. And that's what we're seeing now.
True. But I think as well there is kind of that, what is it called? The paradox of tolerance, where it's like if
Mm,
you're so tolerant up until a point, then you just get steamrolled over.
100%. But that's why I said it comes with never losing this passion and this light of what we're fighting for.
Mhm.
They will not be able to break me. It's not going to work. They can try, not broken.
Specifically though in Berlin, if you could change either, some policy or something politically, what would be the thing that locally you would like to see shifted in German politics?
Good question. First, please stop using fax machines. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, no matter what's the office. I know it's not a big change, but I believe that's where we start rolling.
Mhm.
Stop using fax machines. Second, more inclusivity. More inclusivity, generally speaking, because it's so often that I see panels against racism, with no people of colors, and panels against homophobia with no queer people, like more inclusivity and less like I believe that the idea, the format of democracy is that the majority leads, not that the majority control. And maybe we need a little reminder that for that in Germany and globally, that's how the system cannot work to whomever is at the moment driving the wheel. Yes, they started it, but we're gonna have to take that wheel again. And I believe that we will only be able to do it with being inclusive in our conversation and in our intentions.
I guess I'm thinking about this a lot from my own perspective of kind of how do we open up more of those conversations? Because within even my own friend group, I start to look around and I'm like, we all kind of look the same. Maybe not so much like in terms of like okay, we all have different skin colors, but like we're I'm thinking my own group. We're relatively diverse in that way.
Yeah, I
But like
mean, socioeconomic
yeah, but like
position, you live here, you do this, you love that, you talk
yeah,
about this. I mean, but
we
that's why
all
you're
like the same
friends.
stuff.
But
It's like
that's
how
why
do
you're
I
friends.
yeah, but how do I find like more old people to be friends with? How do I find more
Why do you
opportunities
ask
to
me?
repeatedly No, yeah, that's my question for Tell Mama tonight. I won't be
Okay.
able to attend, but,
How do
yeah,
you find
how do
more
I
old
make,
friends?
friends outside of my bubble?
I think you take yourself to places which are outside of your bubble, because otherwise,
Mhm,
where will you like? If I would only go to queer spaces to perform, I would never meet anybody who can come and be surprised by my existence, which I get on a regular basis when I go to Deutsches Theater or to Thalia Theater.
mhm,
People that come to, they're suddenly, oh wow, now we know what it means. And then when you go to hang out, then go to places which are less just about if you want to. I mean, I know many people that they don't want to extend their friends, but that's different. Friends and conversations are something that is very different, because
mhm.
you have your closest friend and then you have your community. And I'm not within your friends, you choose yours. But as a community, think we should have much more responsibility on how other groups of friends are feeling in the same space. And are they able to feel as safe and as comfortable as you are? And if not, where do you take a step to guarantee that?
Mhm. Was that a driving force for you in the sense of when you started expanding that group into, like, the people who are coming to the Deutsches Theater? Were you thinking to yourself like, "Oh, I'm so glad there's such, like, a different group here tonight," or was that something that kind of, like, caused any
I'm
anxiety?
always happy to perform in places which are far off my comfort zone.
Mhm,
I'm happy to show up. I was happy when I'm getting nasty comments online. I'm happy when I'm able to provoke the attention. And if
mhm.
somebody took the time to tell me that I'm stupid, da 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 da, at least they also took the time to be aware of my presence, and it tickled them enough somewhere that it would be so important for them to let me know how they feel. So I absolutely don't agree with it. It doesn't give me joy, but it doesn't break my day. It doesn't like it is what it is. Some people will think like that. Happy you took the time to be aware of my existence. Ta-da. Not going anywhere. You're not the target. You're not the audience. You're definitely not paying my rent.
That's what I'm gonna tell myself every time I see a hate comment now. I'm gonna be like, "You're not paying my rent."
But I mean, it is what it is. Isn't that a bit concerning if everybody loves you and everybody agrees with you and everybody thinks you have it all correct? Like, you know where it happens? It happens in North Korea. That's where it happens. That's not good news.
Yeah. No, that's very
So
true.
I am more than happy that anybody that disagrees with me will have a conversation with me. There will be guidelines. Yes, I will not be disrespected and I will not tolerate any kind of violence, but I would
Mhm.
100% am open to listen to you as a human being, to your pains, to your desires. I genuinely don't believe that a Republican mom or a Democratic mom has so many of different aspirations for their kids. And if we start talking more about policies rather than politicians, maybe we'll get some shit done.
That's kind of what I like to think about in the context of my own social media channels because it's like at the core of everyone's issue, people just want to be seen, heard, and understood and not feel like they are left behind in society. So whether you are, queer and you feel like you're left behind because many people don't understand you and the freedom that you're trying to express, or if you're, a conservative young man who's like, I can't get a job in this economy right now. I mean, those are two very different issues, but at the core of it, it's just people wanting to make a good life for themselves. Then that's where I feel a little bit of optimism, knowing
Just
that
a bit of
everyone.
kindness. It's just a bit of kindness.
Yeah.
Trauma is a collective experience, and we are dealing with it in different capacities, but eventually it's not a race. It's not about who has been more fucked by the system. Is how we can come together and show. I think that the core of queer values is love, care, and compassion. Everything we have as queers today, gays that walk around with grinder and prep, is available because once upon a time, trans black women made it possible for us.
Hmm.
And living in a reality where trans people of color, specifically black trans people, are being so targeted, we have bigger issues to deal with than now I'm in this and now I'm in that, or my trauma is bigger than yours. We need to be a token of appreciation and respect for their legacy and demonstrate love, care, and compassion also towards each other. Sometimes you can do terrible things and still be a great human being, and our way is to find our way to each other.
Hmm.
And if you didn't, don't patronize and think you figured it all out. You did not. Humanity did not wait for your TikTok education to fix everything. It is what it is.
I have a friend who always says you can't win the trauma Olympics, and just because it's
Don't
always been.
try. Don't try. Just
No.
go for the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, my final question for you today is, I would like to know what do you envision the next chapter to be? What does the next chapter of Judy look like? Is it
Mm.
Berlin? Is it more stage? Is it more political activity? What excites you about the future?
Audience excites me every single time. And so I hope that I will meet as much audience as possible in whichever capacity, everything you've mentioned. One of the things that drag brought into my life, and specifically COVID in drag, is to let go of this long-term plans, because there is absolutely no guarantee that A, I'm going to make it, that B, it's going to work, and that I'm going to be here for as long as I'm happy and I feel safe. Obviously, nothing is a utopia. There's always things to work on and about, but I hope for more of everything that I get today. More interactions, more audience, more love, more theater, more queerness, more togetherness, more compassion, less flags, less nationalities, less hate, less hate, less hate, more possibility, more possibility. I get it. It's shit. Now what we're gonna do about it? So
We're gonna
more
go to a drag show.
possibility. We're gonna begin in a drag show, step by step. But yeah, please begin in a drag show.
Beautiful. Was there anything else though that you wanted to touch on today, other than I will link the Rocky Horror Picture Show
Yes,
below?
please link the shows. Come closer. Come closer. I don't bite unless you pay in advance. So thank you for the time. I'm actually on my way to a show, so
Hmm.
very excited to see some audience right now. And I'm very thankful for this opportunity and this conversation. And I hope to see you soon also in real life. And
Yes.
everybody who's listening or watching, come closer.
I will definitely be at another show very soon. Judy, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation. I just really appreciate all of your openness and, yeah, just ability to have a conversation.